not, raise your hand and we'll try to moderate those, or you can ask, hopefully be able to unmute yourself at the end and ask Sheena at that point. So Sheena, take it away.
Thank you so much, Deborah, Christina, for having me. Hey, everybody. Happy Women's Month. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week so far. So for those of you who may or may not know me, my name is Sheena Yap Chan. I've been talking about confidence for the past 10 years, and I'll share a little bit more about that in my journey. But today's talk, I really want to talk about today, especially it's such a special month, is called Breaking Barriers, Empowering Women in AI, Embedded vision and tech leadership. I think this is such an important topic just because, of course, if you look at the stats, there's not a lot of the ratio between men and women in these industries are still very far the gap. And of course, we want to have more women in leadership, especially in tech, especially in AI, because of course, this is a tool that we can all use to create the things that we want, to have, to automate some of the things that we have in our life. As women, we tend to do a lot of things, right? We're like the jack of all trades. And if we can use these tools to be better, why not, right? I know sometimes it's a new technology and we get scared at times, but when we can learn to embrace it, we can do wonders. So let me just quickly share my screen and we can get started. And if you have any questions, towards the end, maybe you can unmute yourself, or if the Q&A portion works, we could do that. But let me just find one sec. Let me just make sure I have the presentation up. Alrighty. Sorry, a little technical difficulty. Let's see. All right, I got it. So I just want to make sure if everybody can see my screen. I think everybody can. Awesome, thank you. I'm just gonna do the full screen and we can get started. All right, so again, today's presentation is called Breaking Barriers, Empowering Women in AI, Embedded Vision, and Tech Leadership. So the opportunity in AI and vision technology. AI and embedded vision are transforming industries in such as healthcare, manufacturing, autonomous systems, smart cities, robotics, security, and safety. And these technologies are shaping the future. The question is, who will help build that future? Will you be a part of that? Yes, all these new technologies important, but leadership, confidence, visibility, resilience, these are the skills that we definitely need to create the innovation, to create this tech and make it from, an idea to fruition, right? There's been reports that mention as AI is rising, the skills that were once called soft skills are going to be the skills that we need from now and beyond. So again, confidence, leadership, emotional intelligence, resilience, all those qualities are going to be needed now more than ever to make this work. So yes, this is great that we can transform industries, but really it's through our skills, talents, our gifts that will make it even better. So the representation gap. Women remain underrepresented in AI and related fields. Current challenges include gender bias in technical environments, lack of representation in leadership, limited access to mentorship and sponsorship. I think this one has been something that I've learned from a lot of women telling me that mentorship is great, but they don't know what to do after, right? How do women get into those leadership spaces after being mentored? And this is why sponsorship is so important, right? Having the people help you get into those positions after you've been mentored, right? You've put in the effort, you are more than prepared, but yet, you're still at the same spot. And so mentorship and sponsorship together is so needed. Imposter syndrome and self-doubt. We all go through that, myself included. Imposter syndrome is something that a lot of women deal with. In fact, they mentioned that I think 74% of women in the workforce deal with imposter syndrome. So that's a big number, of course, right? And this is something that we've dealt with all our lives. I have a whole chapter on this on my current book, Bridging the Confidence Gap. All the things that I mentioned, it is stuff that I talk about in my book because it's so necessary. They mentioned that the biggest barrier as to why women don't enter in tech or in this industry is because of low confidence. And so if we can help women build up their confidence and see what's possible, we would have more and more women in these spaces, right? Self-doubt, we all go through that. Myself included. When I first started my journey, I would constantly doubt myself if I was good enough, if there was someone better out there. And, treating, sometimes as a leader, we go through a lot of doubts, right? Especially when we're stepping into new territory. So every time you're going through imposter syndrome or self-doubt, I want you to realize that, it's normal to feel uncomfortable. It's normal to feel anxiety or, you're not so sure because you're moving into the next level. And sometimes when you're moving into the next level, it's not going to be rainbows and butterflies. So having these feelings are okay. But if we pre-frame imposter syndrome, self-doubt as something good, saying that, this is just a sign that I'm meant to move up, then it's a lot lighter and we feel better. And then, we're more willing to move up. So every time you're going through that, I just want you to realize, this is a sign that you're moving up, you're moving to the next level. And so the more we can bring these issues up as well, the more we can find ways to solve it, help women move into these tech spaces because, the more we can, the better, right? I mean, if we build it one woman at a time, just imagine what we can achieve. And so when diverse voices are missing, innovation suffers, right? They say insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Of course, that's not going to happen. We have to do things differently. We need to have more diverse voices. We need to have our voices up in tech, in AI, in these spaces to create that innovation that we deserve. So, yes, it's scary at times to put ourselves out there. Believe me, I get it. There's times where I just want to hide from the world. But if nothing, like nothing changes, if nothing changes, right? If I don't put myself out there, then nothing happens, right? Especially, representation is really important for me. We want to see people that look like us, women that look like us, that are doing amazing things, especially in the tech and AI space, because, it can do so much wonder, right? We've seen a lot of amazing women who have created, 6, 7-figure businesses in tech startups, being able to create women in leadership in these spaces. Why confidence matters in tech. Technical skills is essential, but as I mentioned, technical skills is great, but as AI is rising, some of those technical process will be automated through AI. So this is why having the ones called soft skills are the skills that we need. Confidence, leadership, emotional intelligence, resilience, all those are part of confidence, right? It determines where we share ideas in meetings, apply for leadership roles, advocate for our work, and influence decisions. And I know these sound scary because we've never been taught to share our ideas or make the first move or put ourselves out there. But it is important to show up. It is important to be that voice because we want to create change. And in order to create change, we have to be seen. We can't work behind the shadows. We can't be in the background. We have to be at the forefront so that we can show others what's possible. And confidence helps turns knowledge into impact. So this is why confidence is so important. And like I mentioned, part of the reason why women hold back in tech roles is because of the confidence level, not feeling good enough or feeling like there's someone better or they're not feeling like they're capable. And as each and every one of you is here, we're all more than capable to create that change. We're more than capable to go in, even if we have no clue what we're doing, right? If you see some of the most successful people in the world, they just started with an idea and just went for it regardless of the circumstances. So confidence is a really important topic in this tech space because this is how we create those innovations, really, go after those ideas and go after those positions. So here's a little bit about my journey. So yes, I founded a podcast called the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I've interviewed over 800 women leaders on this topic. I also wrote a book with the same title, and it's called The Tao of Self-Confidence: A Guide to Moving Beyond Trauma and Awakening the Leader Within. And so that's that talks about the importance of working through trauma to show up as your best self because a lot of us, there's still probably trauma that holds us back. And that became a Wall Street Journal best-selling book. And now I have my current book, Bridging the Confidence Gap: How Empowered Women Change the World. And that really talks about, the systemic issues that we still go through as women and how that holds us back and how we can move forward. So my mission has always been to help women believe in themselves and lead with confidence because confidence helps us move forward, helps us be the person that we're meant to be. And here's one lesson that kept coming up again and again for me. Confidence is not something you're born with, it is something you build. This is a muscle that you build every single day. It's kind of like if you want, the best body, you work out, right? You go to the gym, you work confidence is the same thing. You you work on yourself every single day, you work on your mindset every single day so that you can believe that that you can do it. And so it's been a long journey. I started my podcast in September of 2015, so it's been a little over 10 years. I'm still learning as well. There's always something new that I learn about myself, about confidence, and why, it's important to have topics like this. Especially, sometimes as women, we feel like we're the only ones dealing with issues when really we're all dealing with similar issues, and being able to talk about these things will feel a lot better versus keeping it to ourselves, and then, we can find solutions to that. So, it's been a wild journey. I never would have thought I'd write not one, but two books for a major publisher. This was something that was not in like my vision board or, list of things to do. But I understood that if I didn't write this book, then I would be a hypocrite. I talk about representation and putting myself out there. And then, part of me was a little bit scared to actually write my first book. So I also went through imposter syndrome. So I'm glad that I was able to say yes, get it done, and have two books right now. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. So I wanted to share this framework with you. It's called the Visible Framework. This is a framework that I've created and I've presented at many different conferences. And this is a framework to help women grow into confident leaders in tech. So it's based on 7 pillars, and each pillar is derived from the word visible. So each letter represents something. So I'll share what they are. V is voice, I is identity, S is spotlight, I is inner work, B is belief, L is leverage, and E is elevation. So each step helps women become seen, heard, and valued. And so this is a framework that, women have told me it's helped them. And we'll go through each letter for sure, but I just wanted to give you a small overview of the visible framework and why this is so important. And this is what I've used as well to help me in my own journey and other women as well. So let's get started. V is for voice. Your voice is your influence, right? In technical spaces, your ideas matter. This is so important because I speak to a lot of women, and a lot of women tell me how, they have so many ideas and they're so afraid to put their hand up and share their idea in a meeting. And because they're afraid, it might, their idea might get rejected or someone might laugh at them. And the person beside them has said the same exact idea and was praised for it. And I share this because I know a lot of us get scared sometimes, myself included, but if we don't share our ideas, nothing happens, right? I'd rather share my idea and get rejected than not share it at all. And I know sometimes speaking at meetings can be really tough or really scary. And so we have to do things differently, right? Amplifying your voice, sharing your voice can mean just even, having an sharing an anonymous, like having having a suggestion box and just putting your idea, right? Or sharing it with just someone close to you, or maybe sending an email to your superior, or, whatever that may be. There's so many different ways to do it. And we just kind of build on top of it. But here's some other ways as well you can strengthen your voice. Speak up in technical discussions, share your ideas early. I think this is so important, and I'll share a little story about that. Ask questions. I always say if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So I'm always asking questions. I'll even start with, this may sound like a stupid idea, but I'll ask it anyways. Or, this may sound like a stupid question, but I'll ask it anyways. Don't be afraid to ask those questions, right? Because, you're not the only one who is wondering that same, question or looking for that same answer. There's other people who might also want to learn as well. And change assumptions respectfully. Innovation depends on diverse perspectives, right? Each and every one of our voices matter, and it's important to exercise this, right? To share up, to speak up, to be okay to share ideas early, ask questions, because if not, then nothing happens, right? If you don't share your idea early and someone else takes credit for it, then it's it hurts you. And so this is why it's so important to speak your voice, to share your ideas in meetings, to find ways to share your voice, right? If speaking up is not something that you're still comfortable with, then figure something out. Have like 2 or 3 ways to speak your voice. It could be writing an email, it can be sharing your idea in an anonymous suggestion box, it can be just maybe even having a smaller circle. It could be just like your coworker or your colleague, whoever it might be, to share that idea. And as you slowly practice that and slowly build it up, you'll be able to have the confidence to keep sharing your voice. So V is for voice. I is identity. Your identity is your strength, right? It's your experiences, backgrounds, and perspective that bring value to AI development. Again, AI is a tool like everything else, and AI works when we give it prompts, right? If the more specific the prompt is, the better the outcome. And so this is why your expertise matters, your experiences, your perspective, because you're putting in what you've been able to learn, what you've been able to gain, and utilize AI to create something out of it, right? Again, if you don't share it, nothing happens. And so identity is about showing up as your best self, showing up as your authentic self. And I know, sh you've probably heard this many times that it's important to be your authentic self, but actually now is the really best time to be as authentic as ever because, AI is developing every single day. There's new technology that comes out. We can't keep up with it. There's so much like AI videos, deep fakes out there. People are craving for authenticity. They want more human experiences. So putting your identity out there, putting your experiences, backgrounds, and your perspective will be a big game changer for everybody. Again, AI is a tool like everything else, but putting your perspective, your experiences, your expertise, that will help you stand out from everybody else. They even mentioned we're gonna have probably more in-person events or, human experience events because people are craving that. So, if you've been like scared to put yourself out there, now's the best time to do it. And don't be scared. People can relate to people that have similar situations. People can relate to imperfection, right? Why do you think reality shows do so well? Because they show up as their messy selves, right? The good, bad, and the ugly. And we get more drawn to it because this is something we can relate to. So be okay to share your identity out there. People are craving for it. People are looking for voices like yourself. So when diverse voices contribute, the algorithms improve, biases reduce, solutions become more exclusive. So your perspective helps shape better technology. So again, your voice, your experiences, background, your perspective, your expertise. And I know sometimes you feel like, well, I'm not an expert. I don't really know much. And being an expert doesn't mean you have to know every single thing. Being an expert is just knowing a little bit more than everybody else. And when you can have it from that, when you can see it from that perspective, it'll be a lot easier to put yourself out there. So show up as your best self, your authentic self, because this is what people are craving now in this world of AI. S is for spotlight. Visibility creates opportunity. And so before I start, visibility doesn't always mean you have to be everything everywhere all at once. Visibility is about being intentional and showing up in the right spaces, the right decision makers to get you to those opportunities, right? I have a lot of people who tell me, well, I don't want to be everywhere. And you don't have to be, right? This is about being strategic, being intentional, being in front of the right people, right spaces, the right audience. And so many women do incredible work but remain invisible. And I totally get it. I grew up in an Asian culture where I was always told if you work hard, the results speak for itself. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I was always just seen as a hard worker because I never put myself out there. I never shared my achievements because for me, I thought if I shared my achievements, I was considered braggy and I was putting myself out there too much and it was too much. And I didn't and that really hurt me, right? Because then I wasn't seen as a leader. I was just seen as a hard worker. So I want you to share your achievements, what you've been able to accomplish. Again, I don't want you to put in all the work just so that someone else can take credit for you, right? You put in that effort, you put in the frustrations, the late nights, only for someone else to take your place. That's not right. And so it is important to share our achievements, put ourselves out there, be the spotlight, because that's how we can create opportunities. So that story I mentioned in voice, I'm actually going to share it here because this is actually it makes more sense here. So there was a girl on TikTok who created a jingle saying for Dr. Pepper. It was just a fun video she did. She's like, "Hey, Dr. Pepper, I have a jingle for you," and she, sang it. She's like, "La la la la," and then it went viral. It went viral. It got millions of views. People were loving it, and that girl decided to tag Dr. Pepper and said, "Hey, Dr. Pepper, check this out," right? And so Dr. Pepper saw it and actually decided to work with her, paid her $2 million to create that jingle. And now she's also done jingles for other companies. But if she didn't tag Dr. Pepper, what if someone else took her spotlight, right? Even she was the one who created it. She saw how viral it got. And right away she said, I'm going to tag Dr. Pepper to see, hey, guess what? I made this little jingle for you for fun, but look how many views it got. And now she was able to work with Dr. Pepper. I think her commercial got aired in like an NFL game. But yeah, like that's how Spotlight works. Be okay to share what you've been able to create. So here's some other ways to step into the spotlight. Present your work internally, speak at conferences, publish research or technical blogs, share your achievements. This is so important. Share your achievements. We've all created something amazing, but sometimes we're so afraid to share it out. And really, this is the biggest thing. Be okay to share it. Be okay to be proud of your work, right? I know this is something that we're not taught to do, but men aren't afraid to share their work. They love sharing the stuff that they do because they understand that by sharing it, it leads to other opportunities. It leads them to be seen as the leader, the expert, the go-to person. And I want the same for you. So, if there's something you're proud of today, we can do something towards the end, just share something that you've been able to do. So visibility helps others recognize your expertise, right? You become the expert. And again, being an expert doesn't always mean that you have to know every single thing. It's about knowing a little bit more than everybody else, just a little bit more to be seen as an expert. So again, I repeat that so that you can really like have that ingrained in your head, like just a little bit more. So when you're doubting yourself, just remember that. So again, be okay to share the spotlight, be okay to share achievements, be okay to share your work out there. So I is inner work. This is so important because 80% of our confidence journey is from the inner work that we do. And what does inner work mean? It's building your confidence internally. So here's some inner work that would include addressing imposter syndrome. Like remember I mentioned that imposter syndrome, if we pre-frame it as something positive, it can help us out a lot more, especially in leadership. When we're moving to the next level, it's going to feel weird, it's going to feel scary. We're going to go through all these feelings, but it's also a sign that we're moving to the next level. And so when you're having these feelings, just remember it's your time to move to the next level. And when we're stepping into something unknown, it's going to feel all those feelings. So we just have to remind ourselves that. And the more we keep reminding ourselves that, the more we can move forward. And even some of the most famous people you've met, they still go through that. They still go through imposter syndrome, but it helps them give the best performance ever. It helps them really step up in their space. So I want you to understand that as well. Reframing failure as learning. This was a big one for me because in school we've taught if you get an F, you're a failure. You're like, you failed in life. When really failure is just part of the process. Failure is feedback. So I'll share a story with you about failure. I was born in the Philippines, and in kindergarten, I failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines of a photo. And this is a true story. I know it sounds wild, it sounds insane, but it really did happen. I was given a photo to color, and I couldn't color within the lines, so I tried coloring it again, and it was the same thing. I colored outside the lines. So I failed kindergarten in that school, I had to move to another school and redo kindergarten all over again. And of course, at 5 years old, you don't know any better, right? You're five. Like you're not, you don't know the concept of failure and, going through all that. But that actually led on to my adult life. And so, I was always afraid of launching things because I was like, if I launch this, people are going to think I'm a fraud, I'm going to fail. And so I delayed my own success. And it wasn't until I attended a personal development conference where I realized this is why I kept thinking this way because of that time in kindergarten where I failed for coloring outside the lines. And if I did the proper work, it wasn't failure. It was just I was meant to do things outside the norm, right? I was meant to be outside the box, outside, coloring outside the lines. I was just meant to do things differently. So I hope sharing the story can help you reframe what failure is. Again, failure is just feedback. Most tech companies are successful because they have learned to fail forward, embrace failure, and keep moving until they get to the end result. Practice self-compassion. We become our biggest critic. biggest enemy, right? We look at like, I look in the mirror and be like, oh my gosh, your love handles are so bad. That t-shirt looks bad on you. You have a pimple on your face. How could you do that to yourself? And it's really important to treat ourselves like our own best friend. Because if your best friend was going through that situation, you wouldn't say that to her, right? You would say like, no, you're amazing. Don't worry, you look beautiful. You got this. Embrace yourself. So you really have to also do that for yourself as well. We have to be our own best friend. We have to give ourselves some grace because we're human. We're not going to always get it right. We're always, we're also going to make mistakes. We're going to fall down, and being able to help, practice self-compassion can go a long way. In developing a growth mindset, this is so important because we have to treat our mindset as like our computer hard drive, right? If we feed it good stuff, our computer is working well. But if you feed it with a virus, what happens? What happens to your computer when a virus comes out? It goes AWOL, right? Pop-ups everywhere, your computer's not working properly, your files might be missing. And so it's the same thing with our growth mindset, right? We have to feed it good things so that our mindset is working properly. And it doesn't mean that you're gonna be, you're not, and like, you won't be always positive, right? There's also such a thing as toxic positivity. But if you're going through challenges, you're going through negative self-doubt, you have the tools and resources to get back at it a lot faster than not developing a growth mindset. So, it's like going to the gym, you work on it every single day. Whether even if it's 5 minutes, right? Whether it's reading a book, attending a conference like this, watching an inspirational YouTube video, develop that every single day because all this work, 80% of it is from your mindset, having this inner work, growing with this confidence mindset that you can always move forward. Because when you work on your mindset first, the 20% action will be a lot better and a lot easier. Everyone in tech is constantly learning. That's so true, right? Again, with AI, there's so much new technology that comes out every single day. It's like we can't keep up, but that's okay. But confidence grows when we embrace that process. So it is really important to work on yourself, to work on your mindset, because again, 80% of it comes from this. And there was a reason why I also wrote my first book, The Tao of Self-Confidence, because trauma is something that also holds us back. Um, I get a lot of people asking me, how do you build confidence? How do I build confidence? And instead of me telling them how to build confidence, I actually ask them, what is stopping you really from moving forward, from increasing your confidence? And it's about getting to the root cause of why we don't move forward, why we feel the way we feel. Because trauma, does play a huge role. Sometimes we're not even aware of the traumas that we're carrying. It could be from our childhood, from not even just our own trauma, but the trauma of our parents, grandparents, and so on. Intergenerational trauma goes 4 generations deep. And, women historically as well, right? Like we've gone through so much. So it's important to work through that to find the root cause so we can find solutions to it. And all this is part of this inner work. So again, if there's anything that, really you gain something from this is really work on that mindset, because once you work on that, it'll be a lot easier and better for you to keep moving forward. And that's going to be like super easy, but like going through these challenges, you understand why you go through them and you'll be able to move forward a lot better. B is belief. Belief shapes action. This is so important because if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to go out there and even make the first step, right? Belief is everything. And this is why we have, I wrote the book Bridging the Confidence Gap, because there's a disconnect between how capable you are versus how capable you feel. Sometimes as women, we are more than capable to go out there, but how we view ourselves holds us back. I've been there as well. I'm also guilty of that. And till this day I still am, right? Belief is something I still have to work in from time to time because especially when you're moving into new spaces, new opportunities, we tend to question ourselves. Am I good for this? Can I do this? Am I capable? And so belief doesn't always mean you have to figure everything out before you do it. You just know you're going to do it and you can figure it out as you go. So I share this strategy of ready, fire, aim. Start before you're ready, take action, and course correct as you go. And this is so important because a lot of us, even myself included, I felt like I needed to know everything first before taking action, when really you just need to take action, take imperfect action, and just keep moving forward. So this is why I love sharing this ready, fire, aim approach, because it's so important. So here's something I want to share with you. If you believe you belong in the tech leadership, you will pursue opportunities, right? Each and every one of you do belong in this space because you have something that can you know, create a great impact, not just for women, but for everybody. And here's ways to strengthen your beliefs: celebrating small wins, track accomplishments, surround yourself with supported peers, challenge those limiting thoughts, right? Your mindset influences your career trajectory. That's why I said the inner work is 80% of the work, because it builds on your belief. It builds that it shows, it gives you proof that you're more than capable to go out there and create amazing things, even if you have no clue how you're going to start it. You just know you will get there. And that's what belief is about, knowing that you will get to that end result and you will figure it out as you go. So again, ready, fire, aim, start before you're ready, take action as you go, and course correct. And the more you keep doing that, the more results you get, because that's what I've done. I've made plenty of mistakes, but those mistakes also led me to my greatest opportunities. Because if you keep doing the ready, aim, fire, which I was doing for so long, guess what I was doing? I was just aiming. I was still trying to aim and nothing happened. So this is why the ready, fire, aim approach is so important, and why belief is really important in ourselves. And I know it probably gets played at that, believe in yourself, but it is important. You really need to build that belief in yourself. And here's some different ways to do it. L is leverage, right? Success is not built alone. I know as women, we've always been taught to be the superwoman of everything, and that gets exhausting, right? Like we can't do every single thing, and that's okay. If we try to do every single thing ourselves, we're gonna get burnt out. We're gonna like not be as productive as we want to be. And this is why leverage is so important. Having support systems, having tools, um, you know, and being able to utilize that to help you get to the end result. You don't have to do everything yourself. And so leverage can look like having mentors, having sponsors, professional networks, industry communities, also utilizing tools, especially with AI. There's so much things we can leverage utilizing it, but sometimes we're afraid to use it. I get it. I was like that too. Um, but it's better when we work together. It's better when we do things together versus trying to do everything ourselves. And so being able to leverage your networks, your professional like network, your industry communities, it can also help open doors, provide guidance, and accelerate growth. This was probably the biggest one: accelerate growth, right? Sometimes we're afraid to ask and receive help. I get it. Being in my culture, we're not taught to do that. We're taught if you ask for help, it's a sign of weakness, or you're asking for a handout when that's not the case. It helps accelerate your confidence because there's someone else helping you there. Because we all have blind spots, and they're blind spots for a reason. And that's why we need to have mentors, sponsors, people that can help pinpoint those blind spots so we can move forward. So collaboration strengthens careers, right? So don't do this alone. Leverage your networks, leverage being in this community as well, right? You're in this community for a reason, because you don't want to do it alone. You want to utilize it to make new relationships, create collaboration, leverage it as well. So again, we don't have to do this on our own. And then last but not least, E is elevation. Leadership means lifting others. As women grow into leadership roles, they can mentor emerging talent, advocate for diversity in hiring, create inclusive team cultures, amplify other women's voices. This is so important because as we're leveling up, we need to bring others with us. This is how we can create more women in leadership, especially in the tech space. Again, it doesn't help us if we leave them behind, if we block them from these positions. We need to bring everyone up as we go. It's lonely at the top. Why would we want to be the only one at the top? We want other women in this space for a reason, because this is how we create change. The more we can create spaces for them, the more we can bring them up. That's how we can create the positive impact that we want and dismantle the things we still go through today. So when we elevate others, entire industries grow stronger. So this is the visible framework. If there was a framework that you enjoyed, feel free to share it later on. I forgot the chat's disabled, but yeah, again, this is the visible framework that I've shared, going through each letter. But if there was a letter that meant that resonated with you a lot, we could share with it after the presentation. So here's some ways to overcome imposter syndrome. Um, Recognize your achievements. Again, sharing your achievements, document your progress, ask for feedbacks, and normalize learning curves, right? Especially in tech, when we're learning something new, it gets frustrating. Believe me, there's so many times where I've delayed myself because when I think about, oh my God, I gotta learn tech, I gotta learn this, I gotta learn that, I actually shut down. So I have to learn as well. Like this is all learning curve. This is all part of the process. Once you push through it, it's gonna be a lot faster. Like when I first started AI, I didn't even know what a prompt was. I just went on ChatGPT and just started playing around with it. But in time, as I kept learning, as I kept getting curious about it, I've learned like there's so many things I can utilize with it, right? So these are some of the ways you can overcome imposter syndrome. And remember, even experts were beginners once. So being able to do this can help that. And just remember, imposter syndrome is a sign for you to level up to take it to the next level. It's all about also reframing what it looks like for you. So when we can see it in a positive light, it's easier for us to move forward. So, real world impact on diverse teams. Research consistently shows that diverse teams produce more creative solutions, better decision making, stronger innovation, and improved financial performance. Inclusive teams build better AI systems. So it's important to have diverse voices. Each and every one of our voices does matter. This is why identity is part of the visible framework, because we have lived experiences that we have gone through that nobody else has and that we can bring to the table to create solutions. Sometimes we go through, struggles, because I think sometimes we have to learn what that struggle looks like and be that person to find that solution. And so when we are able to do that, we can bring that to the table and really provide different solutions for everybody. Again, insanity is not is insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. In order to have different results, we need to have diverse teams, different voices to bring to the table. And that includes your voice as well. So here's a simple confidence exercise. Think about one recent achievement. So just you can screenshot this or really write it down quickly. But think about one recent achievement and ask yourself, what skills helped me succeed? What did I learn from it? How can I, how can I apply this confidence to the next opportunity? So sometimes a little bit of reflection can go a long way. And when you can ask yourself these questions, it'll help you out. I always say if you ask the right questions, the right answers will appear. And this helps you, take action. Like I mentioned on the last one, confidence grows through reflection and actions. When you can take time to do this, we can do this after, or you can just screenshot it and you can do this after. It'll help you see that you are able to make things happen. You're able to create something, because if you've achieved something once, you can do it again, and you can utilize the process that you've created to achieve the first achievement and move it and transfer it to the next one. So again, think about one recent achievement. Ask yourself, what skills helped me succeed? What did I learn from it? And how can I apply this confidence to the next opportunity? So, reflection exercises are a great way to do that. And you can do this later on. And we can always go back to the slide if you need more time for this. So this is what the future needs. The future of AI needs diverse perspectives, ethical technology development, inclusive leadership, confident innovators. Women are essential to shaping this future. Your voice matters. So if you don't think your voice doesn't matter, it does. It's actually, this is the time that we need it now more than ever, where we need more women leaders in this space, in this tech space, in this AI world. I know sometimes AI can be scary to use, but right now we're falling behind. There's still, women are falling behind in AI, and we need more and more women to embrace it and utilize it. Because again, AI is a tool like anything else, and we can utilize this tool to create the things that you want. Just imagine what we can achieve. Just imagine what we can create. And so this is what a future needs. The future needs us. So here's some key takeaways that I want to share with you. Confidence is a skill you can build. The visible framework helps you speak up, own your identity, increase visibility, build inner confidence, strengthen belief, leverage support systems, and elevate others. Leadership starts believing that you belong, which is so true. Each and every one of us belongs in the space. We can create amazing things when we can learn to do all this with the visible framework, help us build the leader that we're meant to be and create the innovation that we all deserve. And so I hope this key takeaway helps you out. And here's a final thought that I want to share with you. You do not need permission to lead. You do not need to be perfect to contribute. The AI industry needs your ideas, your leadership, and your voice. Be visible. So again, AI is a tool like anything else. When you can utilize it to bring your ideas, your leadership, your voice, sky's the limit. You literally like utilize it for anything you think is possible or wasn't possible is now possible with the use of AI. And again, It's a tool that we can use over and over again. You know, the internet was the same thing. When it first came out, nobody knew what it was, but again, it was a tool. Without the internet, we wouldn't be here today to connect, right? From all across the country, the nation, the world, be able to connect with people from different parts of the world through a computer, through the internet. And so AI is just amplifying that. So I hope this presentation was something that can help you out. And so if you would like to connect with me, this is my QR code. It will lead you to all my social media accounts, my website, my books. I also have a free visible framework toolkit that you can download. And if you would like a copy of this presentation, you can just go to this website here, sheenayapchan.com/presentations, add in your contact info, and I can send this presentation straight to your inbox so you can use it for your reference. But again, I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Again, AI is such a new tool, but it's such a great tool that we can use to build our careers, build something amazing, and be the leader that we're meant to be. So, let me stop sharing. I was trying to find the stop sharing button, but we do have a little bit of time. If anyone has any questions, or even if you have an achievement that you want to share, this is a safe space. Of course, we want everyone to, practice what we preach. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we may have some limitations on what Teams allows us to do, but
If they can
gosh.
unmute it, would that work? If they can unmute and kind of share, or
Oh, yeah, that would work. You're right. Absolutely. Let me unmute people, allow the mics. While I'm doing that, thank you so much. Really some of your items really resonated with me, especially when you talk about speaking and sharing your voice, how vital that is. I particularly with AI, I know was one of the reasons I got into speaking was when I went back to school kind of late in life. Um, all the examples the majority of the examples I was being given were really male centric, or from the point of view of a man, even if it's a topic that, anybody can like. And it was getting very frustrating for me. So kind of just to piggyback on what you're saying, like we need more women's voices because that point of view is essential.
yeah, I totally agree. Like, yes, we can relate to some of what men say, but we can't,
Mhm.
they can't relate to everything that we do. Like, as women, we do things so much differently. We go through
Yeah,
so much. I mean, like, even like when it comes to overthinking, right? There's been studies where women have way more thoughts than men in our heads, so we tend to overthink more. And so how do we combat that? How do we find ways to stop thinking about it, like stop overthinking so we can move forward, right? And it
yeah,
totally makes sense, especially if you're like a mother. You're not just thinking about your career, your work, your business, you're thinking about packing lunches, picking them up at school, making sure dinner's right. Like all those little things, right, take a lot of space up.
yeah,
And so, when I see men, share like, oh, you need to hustle 12 hours a day to make your business work. Women don't have 12 hours a day to do that,
right.
unfortunately. We'd be happy if we get an hour of our time. So it's not about sometimes working hard, it's about working smart. And
Mhm.
AI is a great tool to do that. Help us work smart,
100%.
right? So it's a tool that we have to embrace or else we fall behind again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's so perfect because like all the time I'm like, when I talk to my husband, I'm like, do you know how much like scheduling that I do? Like a project manager with my kids and, is all the appointments and the thank you cards for, sending out the birthday stuff and buying goodie bags and, reaching out to family and like your Christmas card. Like I don't, that perspective is important and we don't hear enough kind of from that. So we are only getting that male perspective.
Yeah. So this is why talks like this is so important because we can all relate, right? Even if you don't have kids, like women are natural born caretakers, right? So we want to
Yep.
take care of everybody. Like we want to make sure our parents are okay. We run errands for each other. Like we
Hmm.
do all those little things, and all those little things actually take up a lot of our time, People don't understand that. Like
Yeah.
the packing of lunches, picking kids up from school, helping them with homework, getting them ready for bed, picking them up for extracurricular activities. And then, if our parents are getting older, they need help too, taking them to the doctor, buying
100%.
groceries. Like all these little errands make a huge difference. And most of the time, it's women who do that, right?
Mhm.
And like this is why we can't hustle 12 hours a day because we'd be lucky if we get an hour of a day. And now with AI, like we can now learn to work smart. We can now utilize this tool to help build our businesses or our careers even better, right? By helping us automate some of these processes. So, yeah.
Really great stuff. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Gives me a
Yeah.
lot to think about.
Trust me too. So we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so glad you put your QR code up there at the end too, because you really have some great information out there, not just your books, but like I said at the beginning of this, I've listened to your podcast a bit, and just all those interviews are fantastic. So really appreciate all the material that you put out there for people.
Thank you. Thank you. I do this for all of us, right? All the support we need, knowing that we're not alone in this journey, especially in tech, because I know how hard it can be at times.
Yep, yep.
And that's one of the biggest thing is not feeling alone. But Sarah, you had it
Yes,
unmuted.
hi. I do have a quick question. I just wanted to say thank you. This was great, especially when you were talking about the confidence, something that I think I struggle time to time. But I don't know how much my question is related to this topic, but I'm just gonna ask. So
Yeah.
I actually I teach entrepreneurship, and my research is female entrepreneurship and minority. And I study their human capital, right? And how,
Yeah.
um, when gender is different in a startup, how it changed the performance of the company.
Yeah.
So I have been in the academic world, and I feel like I need to go back to corporate. I do work with AI to some extent. I'm very interested. I do a lot of research to, make sure that I am sharpening my skills. However, I want to have a shift. I want to pivot from academic to corporate, but I'm very interested in tech or healthcare.
Yeah.
And it seems when I started scratching the surface and, sending the resume, it seems it's not catching anything. And I was wondering if you have any experience in that area. How can I pivot, or what would be the best way to approach this?
Yeah. I mean, anything we start in life, like if we pivot something, we think, if we just put ourselves out there, it's going to happen like that. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, sometimes it'll take like, 10, 20, 100 times to move forward. And for me, like speaking was something I never did. When I first started speaking, like I was scared, but I realized I had to put myself out there. And then I realized like, a lot of industries need confidence. So I just really need to talk about the confidence aspect in each industry. And I've applied to so many different conferences. Like every week I get like 10 rejections. But the ones who say yes are the ones I'm really grateful for, like the lady saying yes to this talk because this is an important topic. So, a lot of people think like, if we pivot, it's going to be an overnight success. Well, really it isn't. Like I spoke at a conference last week for like medical assistance or medical training. And there was a guy there that mentioned that he moved from, he just moved into the US 5 years ago, and his dream was to be a med tech. But he couldn't even speak English. He realized when he was applying for these positions, he said that, yeah, he needs to learn English, especially being in the US. So instead of him, applying, he realized he needed to volunteer at these different places at first so that he can see what people are looking for, right? What do these hospitals need? What do the patients need so he can do better? He went to school for it. He's still going to school for it. He was able to get a job at a community hospital, but he's doing everything he can to move forward and pivot into that, right? So I know sometimes we feel like, oh, nothing's happening. Maybe I shouldn't be in this space. If it's something you're really passionate and really want to do, like, start thinking, what else can I do, right? Maybe sharing about your perspectives on social media, like LinkedIn is a great way to do that because there's a lot of healthcare professionals. Even just having coffee chats with people in the health tech or healthcare industry, asking, what are people looking for? What are some of the things we need to do to help out patients, right? Because health is a big issue for all of us. Without our health, we're not going to go out there and be in front of spaces, be in front of the people that we need to be. So, really figuring out what problem are you trying to solve, right? And why you're that person. So I hope that kind of helps out. I know sometimes we want instant gratification, but sometimes it might take a little bit longer to get there. And, with AI, you can also, kind of like mind dump some of that things, right? Hey, like, especially if they know you very well, if your AI agent knows you very well, it can give you different solutions, right? Like I have 3-hour conversations with
Mm.
my chat GPT. It becomes like a
Yeah.
whole rabbit hole. But I've learned a lot. It's like, oh, I didn't even see this from this point of view, right? Like this is great. So
Mhm.
there's so many, like we are in a great space to utilize these tools to bring our expertise to the table. So hope some of that kind of helps out. But yeah, like even just start sharing what you've been able to find in your research, right? Kind of share little snippets of that on social media. Like if you're not afraid to go on video and share some of that or reach out to people, do it, right? They always say fortune favors the bold. So I hope that kind of helps out,
I
Sarah.
see. Yes, it was good, and that's a good perspective. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Sarah, I'm going to piggyback on hers too, really quick. You being in academia, you're used to, with research papers and so forth, you're used to uh, doing work a certain way with, research papers. And that skill actually cross applies a lot to healthcare, even though you're coming from entrepreneurship. So the same things where you would analyze data, right, and write about that, transfer that to, open source data sets that are available from I think it's, whatever the government, I don't remember off the top of my head, has those data sets for healthcare freely available, but transfer that rigor that you would use in a research paper to some healthcare data. And I think, you can use that as a highlight.
Great, thank you.
So we have a little bit more time for one more question, or if there's someone who wants to share something that they've achieved today, feel free to just unmute and share it. This is great practice for all of us. So yeah.
And if you tried earlier to come off of mute and saw that you weren't, I think a correct to that sense.